Welcome to Floating Leaf Tea Podcast. My name is Shiuwen.
I'm Noah, and we are the Floating Leaves team. Ah!
Jeez. Are you okay?
That's my new introduction.
Oh, okay. Because after the weird ape video, many people ask us if we are okay.
Depends on what you mean by okay, but...
we are okay. It's really nice to be here and to record this podcast. Today we are going to drink a full roast Dongding oolong tea from Mr. Zhan, charcoal roasted, of course. And it's not on our menu because this tea is hard to come along. He doesn't have this tea very often. And when he showed up 2 years ago in his shop, of course I bought some. Not a lot, just for myself. And when I first brought it back, so let me put it this way. It was not as good as I had from the previous crop. And of course there was a little bit disappointment. And yet at the same time, I knew, well, it was Mr. Zhan's tea. We got to weigh this out because the other, kind of the same lineup of a charcoal roasted Dongding that I got obsessed with, that I purchased in 2016, also took a while, for the tea to open up.
Well, yeah, we drank that tea in 2018. We drank the 2016 roasted one in 2018.
Yeah.
And now this 2018 one, we're drinking in 2020, and it's...
And I almost forgot about this tea because, I drank it a few times and
It's what you want, right? You kind of want to forget about teas like this.
Yeah, that's right. And then I just set it aside, whatever. And I think during a live session, we were maybe just doing a tea brewing. And I don't know why I suddenly took out this tea and I brewed it in the live session. And it opened up. Yeah, during the live session. And I was like, wow, the tea opened up. Yeah. And so after that, I'm drinking this tea in a daily basis.
Yeah, we had like 2 or 3 300-gram bags and just left them there. Like we opened it and then it wasn't really coming along. And then we tried it again. Tried it like once every few months for a while and then eventually forgot about it
maybe for at least a year. And now it's roughly at about 2-year mark. So anyway, tea is very exciting this way to me. Like if I trust a person and I know the tea is gonna be good, and looks like some of the charcoal roasted teas, even they say not charcoal roasted teas, they have such a big potential to develop and change.
Roasted teas in general.
In the oolong world seem to be a little bit more, but I would say any good tea, because 1 year I had a 5-year-old green tea at Mr. Zhan's place too, and there was not a single hint of staleness.
You told me about that.
I had no idea if the tea was retreated or if the tea already shifted. It just drank like a good tea, that day. And I was seriously really surprised because we all feel like, oh, green tea, go stale, drink it fast, like that kind of stuff. But anyway, with oolong, that a lot of people have the experience that oolong can change. And especially if you know that this oolong tea is coming out from really trusted source, that's always the excitement. Like even right now, it's not bad, but it's not there yet. It's just like wait it out. And then one day you don't know, and then maybe the tea is like talking to me or something, and I grab the bag, say, I wonder how the tea is today. And then boom, it's like so good. It's like, yes. The tea opens. Yeah. Time to drink up the tea.
Yeah.
So anyway, after that, that day that this specific tea opened up, I have been seriously craving for this tea every single day. So today, let's drink this tea.
The smell just feels so satisfying. And for the VIP customers who have been following the shop for a long time
yes,
and coming to classes and stuff regularly for the last, 3, 4, 5 years.
What? They can purchase this
you
tea?
You would know this tea. You might be familiar with this tea. Online, I don't think we've ever sold this tea online. Oh, we did for
We did
like
for
a couple weeks. Yeah, we sold it like 1 ounce at a time for like a couple weeks. A while ago, like maybe 2, 3 years ago.
We did?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, cool.
But anyway, the reason I mentioned it is because it's what we call 4 roast dongding.
Oh.
Yeah, we call it 4 roast charcoal dongding. Whether or not it's roasted 4 times. It was roasted 4 times probably the first time we got it.
Yeah, when I first encountered this lineup of dongding tea, Mr. Zhang just told me that it's 4 roast dongding. And I said, what? You have a 4 roast dongding? Because the dongding I was buying, I think it was, I assume it was always 3 rows. Because the same lineup of 3 rows, he had 2 rows, but it's the same price. It's just a different take on the specific lineup of tea. And he knew that I like it a little bit more rich and darker. So normally when I purchase the 3 rows, he just add one more fire before he send it out. And I always assume that is a 3 rows dongding tea. And lately I've been buying like, maybe he thought I'm a little bit more ready. So he had been sending me like, anyway, the charcoal roast dongding, we put it on our website from a different lineup of dongding. So what does this mean? Shiuwen, what do you mean by different lineup of dongding tea?
Shiuwen, what do you mean by different lineup of dongding tea? This could be a good dialogue. Oh, hi, Shiuwen. What do you mean by different lineup of dongding tea?
I'm gonna kill you.
I'm being sincere.
Oh, okay, sincere. Very good. It's within dongding tea, there are different qualities and capacities of tea. He locate those teas and just look at their quality and to see how complex each tea can get. And of course, the more capable teas and more complex teas, and I would say the better dongdings, then he put it into a specific name. It's still dongding tea, but he will say this tea is your BMW car or something. And then he have the Honda ones as well. Maybe I shouldn't say cars like this.
Or it's more like within one brand, there's different models, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
I mean,
here you go.
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
the things that I'm familiar with are not cars. They're like more like audio equipment and saxophones. But say it's a saxophone, and this one's called an artist's model, and this one's called the Conqueror, and this one's called, the number 8 somehow.
Yeah.
So they just have different names, right? Mm-hmm. And it's not necessarily in Mr. John's tea. It's not that it's roasted a certain amount of times to be called the 8. It's just that it's has a certain feeling. It's not even that it's from the same farmer.
Correct.
Which is what's really interesting to me. We happened to see when we were buying our regular charcoal roast dongding that we keep in the shop, that he had a batch that was made by our farmer, Mr. Su.
Yeah.
And then we asked him, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's Mr. Su's tea," but it's not always Mr. Su's tea. It's all kinds of different farmers from Dongding.
Yeah.
But they make a certain lineup of Dongding for him that has a specific feeling.
Yeah.
And then there's other lineup, like say that our charcoal Dongding is the number 8, then the Conqueror might have a really different, profile. Mm-hmm. But it could also be from the same farmer or different farmers.
Yeah, just that farmer that season make a higher quality Dongding tea that he like. And Mr. Zhang got hold of it, and he turned it into a specific lineup of equipments, tea equipments that he thought they should be in that category. And this also is very interesting. I used to put my Dongding into 2 rows, 3 rows, 4 rows. And then in a way that I told myself 4 rows is because it can take 4 rows, therefore it's a better tea. And I think I also give this idea to a lot of tea drinkers. And I sincerely apologize at this moment. no, it's wrong. It's wrong. Because we actually now have our charcoal roast dongding that is in our shop. Some of them are actually 4 roast nowadays.
Actually, 5 roast. One of them is 5 roast.
One of them is 5. Oh, the one that is coming in is 5 roast. It's on the way. And I haven't tasted it yet, so can't tell you a feeling. Well, I guess I know a feeling. Depends on, I guess, the name when it show up. Because he have a 2 different feelings of dongding tea in the same quality, and one feels like dark and heavier and have a lot of water feeling that I would think of a brook, which he called a singing brook, and that which you guys probably know about this tea. That's most of our charcoal dongding that we listed on our website is actually a singing brook. And then lately we have encountered almost equivalence of quality of a dongding tea, and that tea he called it 春香, like spring fragrant. And first time when we got it, it was actually a really light dongding, wonderful. And then second time when we got it, it was many rows and really like almost as dark as our singing brook dongding, charcoal roast dongding, but it have a feeling of breeze, B-R-E-E-Z-E. One is water and one is wind. And both are good, but different feeling for sure. And this one, I haven't been able to really focus to find an element yet. And I'm into infusion too on this dongding. And you guys probably noticed that in my past podcast, I will tell you what I'm tasting, and I'm still going to do that today, okay? After all, this is tea, and this is a human's observation on tea that we are drinking. And it's a tea podcast, so I better say something about that contest. But before I start to do that, if you guys listen to the last podcast, you know that I was pretty destroyed by my own high mountain blind tasting series of tasting to that place that I thought I should stop going public in my tea journey for a while. And that brought me to retreat into myself a little bit and to think about what Mr. John told us when we taste tea. We should just watch it like a show. And I have been thinking about that teaching my interpretation is to observe it like I just do simply do a observation when I drink tea. However, how do I deal with my likings and dislikings when I drink tea? I do have likings and dislikings because I think in the last podcast, I also mentioned that I'm not going to turn into a tea drinker, say, I like everything. I don't like every single food, so I'm not going to like every single tea. And some are taste preference, and some are, just like when I go to a restaurant, I would say this restaurant doesn't cook well, so I consider it bad food and not going back there again. So I think teas, I also will evaluate, this is a bad tea. I'm not going to drink it or buy it ever again. And this tea is excellent. This plate of food is excellent. This drink is excellent. So I'm gonna continue to eat it or to buy it and to support the business. And so I've been thinking about how do I put my preference and yet observation at the same time. You know, I don't think observation is to just let it just like, oh, everything is good. Is that a form of observation? I'm not even sure. You drink a tea and you say everything is good. So anyway, I have been practicing to drink a tea and to notice my observation with each cup of tea, but not jump on the gun and say, this is good and this is bad yet. I watch it a little bit and then started to maybe put my preferences into it to see, so that maybe we can practice with this one a little bit. So we already have 2 infusions, and the third infusion we can do it from the scent, texture, throat, and movement into the body, which I call it the route. And not to talk about tea energy today. I think there will be too much observation. How about this?
Sounds good.
Yeah. So in this way, I can still, in a way, tell you what I'm tasting in this specific dongding. Surface scent of this third cup of charcoal roast dongding smells sweet, fruity. The scent can pass the nostril area and goes into the top of my head.
So as the broth hits my tongue and it spreads out, when I think about how the singing brook, the regular charcoal dongding that we usually carry, hits, it's kind of like water rushing over stones, like smooth stones. This one doesn't feel like that. It feels like it almost fizzles.
Why is it fizzle?
Kind of like you put Alka-Seltzer in water, the way that it kind of bubbles up. So it still, I guess, bubbles in a sense.
Yeah.
But it feels more three-dimensional in the way that it bubbles. And there's more roundness. And then as it reaches down to my throat, I feel a really clear presence in my throat that moves through. I don't feel a sensation of it stopping, but I do feel it really strongly light up that throat area.
Also rounder.
Yeah.
Compared to the singing brook dongding.
In the throat too as well,
Yeah,
you mean?
it's
Yeah,
rounder,
it's rounder,
yeah.
yeah. And there's a sense of completion. There's a sense of connectedness.
And now it's actually the fourth infusion. And it doesn't mean that then you don't pay attention to the surface scent or the texture in the mouth. But this one, I'm going to focus more on the physical lineup, the route that go into the body, and the empty cup fragrance. I'm quite obsessed with the empty cup fragrance lately. I still haven't figured out what I'm doing yet, but I simply enjoy that. And I will tell you what I am normally doing with my empty cup. So as Noah mentioned earlier on, that this tea connect more than the singing brook. So when it goes into the body, it feels like it's still connected. The whole movement connected to the mouth, and it never got broken off. Also, when it start to reach to my stomach, I don't know if you guys, like live sessions and maybe also podcasts. And if I mention about maybe our even dongding traditional A, it gets stuck in the chest, and sometimes traditional A open enough that it will actually push into the stomach, the presence of the liquid. But first few infusions, it normally just stay at the chest area, and this one will move into the stomach without any effort, like the line is continued. Sometimes singing brook will stop a little bit and then push into the stomach. So this one doesn't need to stop. And I simply just watch that. So I'm going to talk about in a way, the vertical line. I'm not going to talk about the horizontal line today with this tea, because it's not what I want to talk about today. And the empty cup. So I will get the cup really close to my mouth, like my nose is actually into the cup. And the smell is really full. I'm normally not smelling what it smells like. Of course, I will smell if it's clean or dirty. Clarity is a very important subject in tea. But it's actually how full the smell can get. And then I will take the empty cup away from my nose about how many inches do you say this is?
2, 3.
2-3 inches. And to smell the shape and how can it still get into my nose with this kind of a distance. And I actually will lure it further away, maybe 4 to 5 inches away from me, the cup, to see if the presence of scent have the capacity to get into my nose. I think this is very important. I think a better tea than have a more, I would say, a little bit more structure in this way, And of course, it depends on how much time you have, then how long do you linger an empty cup around your nose, and just see how long the scent can stay also inside of the cup. Yeah. and what's the presence. In tea, I also really like the subject of a presence of tea, which then lure into right now. We call it aftertaste. A lot of us, me included in the beginning, I pay attention to aftertaste in the mouth, on the taste, on the salivation, and I think it's very important. Tea has the capacity of that, and some tea don't. And the presence of other areas, of course, because if you can leave a feeling when the liquid is passing, I think it will leave also a feeling after it's gone. And I actually call those things all together aftertaste. Then I look at the aftertaste is actually a feeling of a tea, a presence of tea. But nowadays I practice not to judge if it's good or bad presence yet. I just simply watch it. Because so far to now, you might be listening and say, well, isn't this what you have been teaching us? Watch it from the scent in the nose, the liquid in the mouth, the dimension, the throat sensation, how it moves, how it connects. I would say, yes, I still watch those things. I think right now the major difference is when I watch it, I don't stop and say, what if I don't think this one is as good? I just simply watch it for the first time, so I don't need to stop. It's like you watch a show and then you watch the first 10 minutes. The show is running, right? This show is 15 minutes. You watch the first 10 minutes. So far, so good. And then somehow in a minute 10 to 12 or 13, what the heck? What's happening? Is that the writer cannot write this anymore? This is not as good. And then boom, 15 minutes into the show. I think it's bouncing back again. Cool. And then 20, 30, and until the 50. And sometimes in a way, I feel this way to watch a show, you dissect the show a little bit. And then our mind sometimes lingers so much in the good and the bad that we actually couldn't bring ourselves out of the good or bad part of our feelings, including the tea. And it's not even at drinking, sometimes at brewing. Damn it, I didn't do as a good job today in this infusion. At this moment, even though I'm silent, in my mind, I'm criticizing myself. Relax your shoulders. You are not doing a good job today. Then because I linger on that bad feeling, even though I try hard, because all what I was doing in the later infusions is core, my fingers going up now, the core sign. Yeah. I am trying so hard. So, which is oxymoron, right? When you are trying so hard, how can you relax? Well, I was trying to achieve that relax Shiuwen. And I'm like beating myself with a stick. So when I evaluate a tea, if there was a point like they say, and even with this tea, right? First time when I taste it, I can just say, well, I'm disappointed. This is not the level of this tea, what it's supposed to be. Then first, I am criticizing my teacher. Who am I then to criticize my teacher? My ego was so high that I get to criticize my teacher with this specific, and am I using this specificity to judge who the teacher is? Well, in the past, he blew my mind every single time and so many times, and yet I'm using this moment only to say I'm disappointed, rather than just let it go and watch the whole thing and from the past to now and maybe possibly to the future and say, dang, he blew my mind. I have so much to learn from this person and from his tea. But I stop at the moment and say, I'm disappointed. So if I watch a tea, then I have my ego to judge good and bad. Very easily, I will stop at a very specific moment. And so nowadays, when I look at the tea, I don't stop. Watch the scent, this, texture, this, but not, in a way, not criticize it good or bad. Later, I will do that though, when the whole thing is gone. When I sincerely pay attention to at least 5 infusions, then I might do an overall, in a way, overall look at this tea kind of if I want to say the word judgment, then I will say then judgment then. Am I making myself a little bit clear? Oh, not really. Huh?
I think so.
Oh, okay. I'm like ranting again today.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of when I think about something, I just talk about it. Yeah, cool. I guess what I'm trying to say that is when I stop good and bad, then how much of my ego get into a way of tea tasting. Right?
Yeah.
Because sometimes I will drink somebody's tea also, and I'll take the first sip, and my mind will say, I don't like this tea. And I'm not sure it's because it's not my tea, therefore I don't like it. Because my ego is so big that I have good tea, this person doesn't have a good tea. Who is this person anyway? I don't even know who the person is. Rather than drink. I guess if it's a bad tea, yes. Are you lost with what I'm saying today?
A little bit. Kind of hard to follow.
Okay.
But I don't want to, if you're on a roll, I don't want to stop you.
Do you remember the incident of that Tie Guan Yin that Rich bring it to Mr. Zhan?
Yes.
I don't remember specifically how many infusions that we got into it. Maybe at least 3. But he didn't take a sip and say, well, first of all, this is not a good tea or anything. He didn't say anything about that tea at all. I think he was watching the tea. Second infusion. I don't remember what we talked about. Maybe Rich said this is a traditionally done Tie Guan Yin and stuff. I think it's by the third infusion, Mr. Zhan finally opened his mouth and said about the earth of the tea. So he was not talking directly about the tea.
He was talking about the earth.
There was a defect of the tea, but it come out of the earth.
And that's seeing clearly.
He didn't jump on the gun and say, I don't like this tea. You know, can he not taste the earth has some problem in the first cup? Why did he wait? And I think nowadays, I would say I have the problem of showing my opinions way too soon and too fast before I let everything play out. And many people, my observation is many people have the problems as well. And I think Mr. Zhan, he as a teacher position, he's not in a way. I guess what I'm trying to say today is I am not going to sit here and say nothing about this tea, a tea that is coming at me, that I drank it. I'm not going to say nothing. Like I have no opinions, but I don't want my opinions to blind my seeing. Because I've been looking at myself that how do I see things clearly and be able to share with people rather than just simply tell people this is good and bad. And maybe that there are things that Mr. Zhan, I'm doing my quote finger thinking again, that he disliked about maybe the broth of the tea or the development of the tea. And he said nothing about that. Maybe he think, well, you guys are pretty advanced tea drinkers, go figure it out. But there's something in this tea that the earth part of it make this tea that way, that we might be incapable of seeing that. And he as a teacher, he should show us that.
Oh, okay. I follow you now.
Okay,
that was a little bit hard for me to wrap my mind around.
And it's like 50 minutes into the talk.
Yeah, 45 minutes into the talk. No, okay, yeah, yes. A little bit on the cerebral side for me today. My mind's a little bit slow or something. But I'm with you now. Yeah. My experience that day was that I tasted the tea. I wasn't really feeling super clearly one way or the other about it. Kind of tasted good to me. I like traditional style Tie Guan Yin.
Yeah, it tastes the tea.
It was rich.
The tea tasted fine.
Rich and it's got that Tie Guan Yin kind of aftertaste there. So I was like, oh, I'm with it. And then Mr. John said that about the earth is not clean. And then I tasted something. Something popped up into my mouth or came into the foreground.
Yeah.
That I didn't notice before.
Yeah.
And that was that kind of tingling, pinching sensation that I've now come to identify as pesticide. And now I see it much more quickly.
And I think that sensation to him must be so sharp because he has been drinking really clean teas. So when you suddenly have a pesticide tea in his cup, it's so sharp. Just like lately, we also had an experience of a pretty strong pesticide tea. Somebody sent us a sample of a tea, and it was really clear.
It was the first thing that you noticed, right?
Yeah,
when you
it's
taste
the
it.
first thing I noticed, and it's so uncomfortable. But I would say, I would say maybe 15 years ago, if I had that tea, I seriously, I'm not sure that, no, I'm certain I cannot identify there was pesticide in there. And instead I would just focus on, oh wow, the flavor is really big. It's juicy. It's fruity. It's really good.
Or another thing, even 3 years ago, before I had that experience with him, with Mr. John, if I drank that tea, I might feel something's off.
Yeah.
I might feel like, oh, this is not a good tea. But I wouldn't have anything clear to say about why I felt that way. Which I think, if I'm understanding you, is what you're saying, is that if we taste something and we just judge it through ignorance of this is a bad thing and tell other people it's a bad thing, then we're kind of not sharing anything concrete that's observable.
Well, actually, today, I apologize to all of you guys listening to this episode out there. I think the focus of this podcast is not very clear. I think, and I think nowadays there are in this specific podcast there are two very different subjects showing up, and it just shows who I am. I've been thinking a lot of things, by the way. It's a good thing that I'm thinking.
So what are you thinking?
I think the beginning of the podcast, I just want to share with people one process that I'm thinking is do not use our ego to stop a tea. That's seriously just my what I really wanted to do today. Because I think the blind tasting, how we can flop, we assume the best and the most simple tea in reverse is because after one sip, we just say that I know that is the best tea and that's the simple tea. And that through the tasting, because of that knowledge in our head, we couldn't taste it as well anymore. Yeah. So what if today, the first sip of this tea, I just say, this is not a good tea.
What if you say this is a good tea? What if you say, wow, that's a great tea?
Yeah, this is a good tea. And I also blind my mind to in a way encourage and talk to myself like, okay, evaluate this. This is a good tea. This is a good tea. Rather than just watch it without liking or disliking at first. At least I would say throughout first few infusions, just simply watch it. And my focus today is first step is not to have that ego to blind us, because it will lead our capacity to taste it into a different direction. Secondly, it's that thing that I've been thinking, but do I not have opinions of every single tea from now on? No, I still have my opinions in the end. But I would like to do it in the end to watch the overall picture of the tea rather than in the beginning. Maybe let's make it a little bit more clear and forget about the other story. Yes. That's a totally different, even though it's related, but it's not as focused as, in today's subject, I would say, with the incident of the traditional 铁观音. Yeah. And is there a way like this tea today the first 2 infusions, I on purpose didn't tell you guys what I'm drinking. Not to like, oh, I don't want to share the information. I'm drinking the don't thing. What I'm saying is I didn't share with you the evaluation process. And then 3 and 4 infusion. But I was doing my observation in the first and second infusion. 3 and 4th infusion, I was more bringing on that we are still doing this. It's still very important to us to learn the structure of a tea. And that's still what we are watching most of the time in a tea. But I didn't tell you, wow, that's so good. Oh, that part, if you can do this, it might be even better. I didn't say, if you guys rewind to the 3rd and 4th infusion when we are talking about the scent of the mouth, if you notice, I didn't say anything of liking or disliking. I simply watch it because I don't want the ego to show up. And then now it's like 5th, 7th, whatever, I'm like ranting so much today. It's like 7th infusion. I got an overall feeling of this tea. But I still, in a way that nowadays I want to practice, is not from me, my ego, to judge that, oh, this tea is a good tea, 78% good tea. It's to simply watch its capacity and then appreciate of its capacity. And even if the capacity in my mind is 30%, I watch it as it is. And then I say, well, it's in my mind, I would say with 30% today. And there are a couple of good things show up. Thank you, tea. And today, so it looks like 70% in my 1%, 0% to 100% of a tea. I give this ranking a 78% actually. And I'm not gonna tell you what I'm ranking it with. I have no system, by the way. And it's a good tea. It's a good tea. I'm really confusing Noah. I'm sorry. And for those of you who are listening today, I think I'm confusing you too. And I sincerely apologize. That's not what I tried to do.
I think you have a lot of good ideas going around.
Too much, huh?
A little, I mean, maybe not even too much, just not at a point where it's condensed enough to be easy for me to understand. Maybe there's people out there listening that will understand it a lot better.
Maybe it shows how my brain is working lately. If you guys,
understand.
If you guys watch it that way, you'll say, okay, that totally makes sense now.
Yeah.
That it doesn't make sense because there are too many things is happening in her head right now. She's thinking about too many things in tea. I do. I think about tea brewing. I think about how to drink a tea. I think about this and that. I think about a lot of things. How do I learn? How do I share? So,
well, I think one thing that we've successfully learned through doing the podcast is that the easiest way to keep it centered on something is to keep it centered on the tea for every infusion. And we just have a new infusion in front of us, so we can bring it back to the tea now.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So what maybe you should take the lead. What do we do with this infusion? Not laughing at you, I'm like laughing at myself because that's how my brain works lately. I'm very sincere and honest right now.
Don't have to say anything for like a little while. Yeah.
Basically, he says, shut up, woman. Okay.
When you told me that we're going to drink this tea,
yeah,
I came in with one idea.
Oh, okay.
And I would like to say it.
Okay, please.
That's kind of what we started talking about in the beginning, is a good roasted tea, and it's not only from Mr. John, but anyone who's good at roasting tea can grow over time.
Yes.
Simply that. Because we started drinking this tea, when it first came into the shop, it felt in my own... And even at the time, I was doing my best not to judge it, right? Because I have faith in our teacher. But my experience was that it didn't taste very good. It was a little bit sharp, and it was a little bit flat. And it felt like, if you want to use an image, it was going the direction it was going too fast and without stopping to enjoy what's around it. When you asked me to say what I feel about how it tastes in the mouth, now it feels round. It feels like when it touches the mouth, it stays there long enough to kind of grow there. And it's just lovely for me to see that development. And the businessman in me tells me to say, hey, you guys should buy lots of roasted tea and drink it 3 or 4 years later. But I only say that because that's what I want to do. And we actually have a lot of roasted teas at home now, or in the shop now, that we bought because we want to see what they turn into.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. It's just a joy to taste the roundness that this tea has developed. And when we were drinking the previous batch in 2018, the judgmental part of my mind told me this one's really good, and then the one that we have from 2018 that just came in, it's not as good of a tea.
Not as good. Yeah, there was also a really big thing that I was thinking at the time. This tea was not as good, and even though I respect, I mean, seriously, that Mr. Zhang is my guru, okay? But at the same time, that disappointment is so big, and in a way that I wouldn't allow him to make a tea like this. And I think that was so blind. I was judging that moment, and I didn't learn from my past experience that, the other one, actually, it takes like 2 years to bloom. And this one, amazingly, it also takes about 2 years to bloom, and I just couldn't hide that disappointment at that time, and sure, I think at the same time that I was judging my teacher. Yeah.
But that's a lesson in waiting or patience.
Yeah.
Right.
And to know what a really amazing teacher have in play for us. Because if you really want to expand this to life philosophy, things are not black and white, even in tea. A lot of times are good ones. And in the human personality, also not black and white, and nothing can stay forever, not change. I don't think so. So a tea can change. Humans are changing too, and we are changing together simultaneously. And the possibilities of a lot of things will occur in the middle of the process. And so for me, like, seriously, what I'm really trying to say today is to still go back to the beginning. Don't let a criticism and initial judgment to blind our eyes to look at the tea. Yeah, here you go. That's the message of today. Okay, thank you for listening. I'm ready to go, and I'll shut up from now. Okay, say something and then we'll close it. Okay,
thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you.
It's gonna be good. And we'll see you next Monday. Thank you for listening. We love you, and drink good tea.
And be well. We love you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.